Hey there, podcaster. Are you pouring your heart into your podcast and not seeing the growth you want? Trust me, you're not alone. Many passionate podcasters find themselves stuck in a cycle of constant output and burnout without any growth at all. It's time to shake things up and discover why your show might be stagnant. We're going to dive into the number one reason your podcast isn't growing, even if you're showing up consistently and spreading your message across every single social media platform. Brace yourself because this might ruffle some feathers. Are you ready? Let's go. So this is something that I have seen across the board, whether it is my coaching clients, my people inside of my membership community, which is absolutely amazing. We do hot seat coaching every week where you actually get a time to bring your business to the table so that you have about 7 people masterminding your specific issues to help you grow. We're really excited in there, but this is like the consistent thing that I have seen. And when my clients, whether they're in my production agency or my coaching or, like I said, my mastermind, do this one thing, everything changes. And what's that one thing? Brace yourself, multi-passionates, because it's going to hurt a little. Finding your micro niche. It is so hard. And trust me, I get it. I am a jack of all trades. I want to be all the places, do all the things, but when I really go micro niche down, that's where I start getting the growth. You see, until you're one of those big people that is a household name, it's hard to talk about flowers and then whether you want to travel someplace and kind of live that lifestyle podcast, all over the place where you're like, my meals this day, my health and fitness journey this way. There's some niches that works, but for the most part, if you want to see growth, you have to be kind of a stand for one thing. And that's been really hard for me. And I will be the first to admit it. When I moved this over to Beyond the Downloads, it was hard because it was like, okay, well, I don't want to just do podcasting. How does my book, Your Story is Someone's Life Raft, fit into this? How does all these different things stack into this? And for someone who is a bit crazy, has a little bit of an ADHD brain, it's hard to get in and focus down. But what happens is that the more messy I get, the more messy my clients get with their podcast messaging, their numbers start to go down. I have one of the top 0.001% podcasts that is inside my show. And when she started adding lifestyle episodes and her backstory and stuff, we saw a pretty big dip in her numbers. And I'm talking like 50%. So her people were coming to her for something specific. And when she started going off, her diehards kept listening. But what happened is those people that weren't like diehards that wanted to know her and her story and all of the things, they left. And this happens a lot. Everyone's like, I want to have a talk show, like where I can just talk to people. Great. But when you're going to do that, you have to understand what you're doing it for. And you have to understand marketing it is going to be a lot harder. And listener retention is going to be a lot harder. Because if your topics are all over the place, your audience isn't going to be able to follow you. And you want to keep coming back unless somehow it's that perfect person. So if you're upset about your numbers not growing, really look at like, what's your consistent message across this? This is something that I am working on too. Yes, we're talking about podcast growth and niching down and things like that. And I'm not perfect at it. But what I really want you to understand is that when you go into these micro niche categories, so for me, I'm still finding that balance. Where's the balance between teaching you how to podcast, growing your podcast, launching your podcast, finding that perfect story in there? Where is that middle ground? And for me, it's starting to be podcast story selling. How do I sell through stories? We have to look at exactly what you're using your podcast for. You can use a podcast to just network. If you're not looking for the download numbers, but you're looking to network, podcasting is great. Because even with a small number, if you have a show that's kind of all over the place, you're still going to hit some people and you're going to network. That's what Feed Your Business with Love, my very first podcast, is me finding a way to connect with other people. Because here's the thing, 5 years ago, I didn't want to wake up. 5 years ago, I was praying that universe God would take my life because I didn't feel like I deserved to be here. I was in a very messed up situation, and the people in my life were dictated who and who I couldn't hang out with. And I found a way to connect with other people through podcasting. So if your podcast is one of those podcasts that's like, hey, I'm using this to connect with other people, great. Talk about all the things, do all the things. If you find a core reason to talk to everyone, take it your gut health or women's health. I just think of those because those are things that I'm like deep in right now, or how to grow your podcast or how to grow your business through whatever. If you can focus on those those few little things, that's where you're going to actually start to see the growth if you bring in a bunch of guests. That, we can talk about a bunch of topics underneath one of those umbrellas. I can bring in a bunch of people to talk about Beyond the Downloads and podcasting under one umbrella. I do the series, Your Story is Someone's Life Raft, because your podcast is someone's life raft. Podcasting saved my life. Therefore, I can have someone on my show that says, hey, here's a reason that I've used podcasting beyond my numbers. But if you're really to the point where you're like, I want to grow my specific business, my specific thing that I do, having one offer, maybe a free offer or maybe a small offer stack, a free, a low, and whatever you consider mid or high. Maybe having just a small signature offer is where you really need to be. But the more you niche down, the more you come up with that one topic and you speak to that one topic, the easier it is for somebody who needs what you have to continue to follow, because it takes a while for you to trust somebody. It takes a while for someone to say, here, take my money. It takes a while to do that. I mean, if you're somebody who can just bring in a bunch of people and sell low end offers, great, go for it. You want to do that. But if you really want to grow your show, the more you can niche down and get specific and then start leading in with all of those SEO keywords so that at least you're not having to search for everyone. But that brings me to my next point, is that as you're growing and you're splattering your podcast all over and you're just thinking that you can record one piece of content and then cut it up into little micro clips and put it out there, and you think that's going to be what grows your show, it's not. It's about connecting with other people. It's about getting people talking about your show. Most of the time, I'm going to say 90% of the time, those clips aren't going to help you much. Unless you say something super profound and it's super short and you can turn it into like something that is visually appealing and, auditory, that's not even a word, appealing to someone's auditory senses, then maybe you're repurposed content. But realistically, it's better, and I teach my students this, that when you create a long form piece of content, to just go back in, hold your phone up and do an actual like face to camera or a overlay of your voice, because that new content is going to be so much juicier because you can put that like super like catchy hook, like, yes, I need this. This is why my show's not growing. This is the one thing I need to do to fix my podcast. Things like that. Kind of like you would do with a hook, which is what goes before the intro on your podcast. So I just wanted to share that with you today, that like sometimes going broad is helpful, right? If you're trying to network and you're trying to build your network and all of those things, it was a great purpose for me when I had Feed Your Business with Love. I learned a lot. It saved my life. I got to talk to people. I got to network, and it's what built the business I have today. But if you want to grow your show to specifically feed an offer or something that you have, you could even be like somebody who's an affiliate for clothes and you just talk fashion all the time. But if you want to drive people and to keep them around, you've got to stay in that niche, or find a way to weave in the other stories, because when you start going all over the place, you get confusing and you're not going to have that consistent person coming back. So you're going to have to keep finding that podcaster listener, because really, Like, they're not going to stick around. And it's hard to find podcast listeners already unless you're doing perfect SEO and, you've found the perfect plan. And the plan should not be repurposing on every single platform. You need to really figure out where it is. And that's why I'm super excited. If you are struggling and you need help, I have a 90-day podcast profit plan that is actually on holiday sale right now. And right now you get $500 off, which means like you're thinking, oh my gosh, this program is so expensive. It's not. It's not. It's a 3-figure one-on-one experience with me. And I just, I want to help you figure out like what I call the CPR. We got to get clear. We got to find your people, your purpose, and your passion. And we've got to overlay that so that we can revive your revenue. So if you're interested in that, you can come over to jendragonette.com. That's JenDragonette.com. You can find me on most socials, but you also see that I don't post on most socials. I am social on social instead of posting look at me content. And I hope to see you over there because realistically, your show can be such a lifeline. But we just have to make some of these simple tweaks. And when you have a multi-passionate brain, it's hard to stay under one umbrella. But I guarantee you there's an umbrella you can stay under that'll make you excited. And maybe that's stay under it for a season and then swap it out. But there's a way to do it. And that's one of my zones of genius is finding a way to master that multi-passionate so that you can find that micro niche so that your podcast can grow. So if you are ready to do that, again, reach out to me. You can look in the show notes. Everything is there. And I'm just so excited for you. Keep going. Podcasting is going to make some big changes this year and next year. And be there or be square. Be part of the 15% club. Actually, I think it's the 13% club. Only 13% of people actually make it in podcasting, I think was the last statistic I saw. So I'm going to be part of the 13% club and I want you to be there too. So go out and make today amazing because you are beautiful, you are wonderful, and you are worthy. So go out, grab a microphone because your message, your story deserves it.